Hello, everyone. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. Listen, if you are following me on my YouTube channel, thank you so much for following. Please like, please share, please subscribe, and comment. I really would appreciate the engagement. For those of you that are listening in on my podcast, Fundable by Design, I want to welcome you back to another episode. Today, we're going to talk about why is it so hard, or why does it feel so hard to start and run your nonprofit organization? Um, I want to talk about what no one else speaks about in this space. Okay, the missing education, the missing information that's keeping thousands of nonprofit leaders, founders exhausted, overwhelmed, and underfunded. Um, I was just on the phone a few minutes ago with a leader that I helped set up her organization. And I told her, I said, when we set this organization up, you need to prioritize the organization work. She was very passionate. She was very committed to the program work. She wanted to help young people. She wanted to make sure that their school supplies were in place. She wanted to make sure that they were tutored and properly, and all those out of classroom activities were being provided by her program. So that was her focus. And because she didn't take my advice, she found herself in trouble. I want to ask you a question. I want to ask those of you that are listening to me a question. Have you ever looked at your nonprofit and thought, this is so much harder than I thought it was going to be? Maybe you thought, I thought I'd be serving more people by now. I thought donors would come once people saw the work. Maybe you thought getting my nonprofit approved was the hard part. You thought getting the approval or the letter from the IRS would be the hard part. You may have thought, I thought grants would help us get started. I thought God would make a way because I stepped out on faith. Or maybe you've had a moment when you quietly asked yourself, what am I doing wrong? If you ever had any of those thoughts, I want you to hear me carefully. You're not crazy. You're not lazy. You're not failing because your mission isn't important. And you're certainly not alone. Over the last several weeks, I've been reviewing applications from nonprofit leaders. I've spoken with organizational leaders from the United States, from Canada, from Kenya, from Uganda, from Cameroon, from South Africa, different countries, different missions, different cultures, different ages, different backgrounds. Some want to help veterans, some want to help children, some want to help survivors of domestic violence. Um, some want to feed the hungry, some want to mentor youth, some want to build schools, different missions. But almost every one of them started the conversation the exact same way. My biggest problem is funding, Jen. I said, what is your problem? My biggest problem is funding. How long have you been around? We've had our organization 2 years, 4 years, 6 years more. My biggest problem is funding. And as I keep asking questions, a completely different story begins to emerge. Today, I want to share what I discovered because I honestly believe that this is one of the biggest missing conversations in the nonprofit space. Every single one of them, every single one of them. Now, those of you guys who've been following me for a while, you know that I talk to thousands of organizations every year, okay? Every single one of them thought funding was the problem. Not one exception. All of them thought funding is my biggest challenge. Funding is my biggest challenge. And as I began to continue the conversations with them, they all began to respond to questions like this. Jen, I've spent thousands of dollars out of my own pocket. Jen, I can't find donors. Jen, my board's not active. I've applied for grants, Jen, but I haven't gotten any. I don't know where to find funding. Jen, I'm overwhelmed. Some of them said, Jen, everything depends on me. It could be, I've had my nonprofit for years, but I'm still paying for everything myself. Jen, I have a vision, but I just don't know how to get started. One funder said to me, I wish someone had taught me how to get donors before everything else. I wish someone had taught me how to get donors before everything else. Y'all, that one hit me. That one made me stop because I knew exactly what she meant. But I also knew that wasn't actually what she needed. She was right. She was right, but she was also wrong. Let's think about the statement. Let's think about the statement. I wish someone had taught me how to get donors. When you hear it, that sounds exactly right, right? That sounds right. But I want you to think about something else. Suppose tomorrow morning, I introduced her to a I introduced her to 10 wealthy donors, right? Because I get people all the time in my inbox. Jen, can you introduce me to donors? Jen, can you introduce me to funders? Jen, can you make connections for me, right? So imagine this. I wake up and I said, let me introduce you to 10 wealthy donors. Would they automatically write a check? No. No, they wouldn't. Why not? Because donors don't simply ask, is this a good cause? Most causes are good cause, right? Most causes are good causes. Most programs are doing great work. Most organizations have passion. Most organizations want to make a difference. Instead, the donor and the funder are asking, can I trust this organization? That's what they're asking. They're asking, can I trust this organization? Who's leading it? How are decisions made? How are finances managed? How is impact measured? Can this organization sustain the work? She thought she needed donors. But what she actually needed was an organization donors could believe in. And that's a completely different problem. A completely different problem. And a completely different solution. Listen, I believe that the biggest lie we were ever, no, the biggest lie we were never intentionally told. Let me say it like that. The biggest lie we were never intentionally told. Because I don't really believe anyone intentionally is misleading many of you as nonprofit founders or nonprofit leaders. I really don't. I don't believe that people are out here intentionally making up stuff to lead you into starting an organization and then you finding yourself stuck, or you starting a nonprofit organization and you're not able to scale, or you started the nonprofit organization and you're not able to get the grant, right? Because that's what they said. Start a nonprofit, you can get a grant. Start a nonprofit, you can get funding. Start a nonprofit, right? So I don't believe that anyone is intentionally misleading you. I really don't. I think something else happened. I think something else happened. Every professional teaches from the perspective of their expertise. An attorney teaches incorporation. A CPA teaches compliance. A grant writer teaches grants, right? A fundraiser teaches fundraising. A marketer teaches branding. A governance consultant teaches boards. What's another one? An HR consultant teaches staffing. So every one of those professionals is valuable. Every one of them is teaching something different, but they're teaching one piece. They're teaching one piece. Nobody steps back and says, let me show you how all of these pieces work together. Imagine building a house. One contractor teaches plumbing. Another contracting teaches the electrical. Another teaches roofing. Another one teaches framing. And every one of them is right. But if no one gives you the blueprint, you don't know how the whole house fits together. And I think that's what's happening in the nonprofit space. I think that's what's happening in the nonprofit space. Imagine buying one puzzle piece every month. January, grant writing. February, board governance. March, marketing. April, fundraising. May, strategic planning. June, CPR, the CRM software. July, volunteer management. August, website development. What am I missing? September, AI tools. October, donor cultivation. November, case for support. December, financial management. Every course promises this is what you need. No, it's one piece. Without seeing the complete picture, you don't know where that piece belongs. And that's why so many of you, so many nonprofit leaders feel overwhelmed. They don't have an information problem. They have an integration problem. You got these pieces, but you don't know what to do with all the pieces. Am I making sense? Every specialist looks through a different window. Every specialist looks through a different window. The grant writer sees grants. The accountant sees financial controls. The COO sees operations. The board consultant sees governance. The marketing expert sees visibility. And they're all right. They're all right. But they're each looking through one window. After 40 years in this field, I've had the privilege of walking through the entire building. The entire building. That's why I created the capacity framework. Not because governance isn't important or not because fundraising isn't important, not because marketing isn't important, but because they all have to work together, right? I want to really explain what capacity is. If you guys have been following me for any amount of time on any of my pages, you hear me talk about capacity. And I want to explain what capacity means. Okay. I want you to really understand not just the word capacity, but I want to break down for you how to internalize it, how to apply it. How does it need to be imagined or executed in your organization? All right. So the C in capacity. The means compliance and governance. All right. That's not just filing the paperwork, but that's building accountability. Accountability is your compliance and your government. That's accountability. That's creating trust. That's the C. All right. The A is accountability systems. The accountability systems are your budgets, your financial controls, your reporting, your transparency. These are the things that really attract and build confidence and credibility for the donor, the funder, and supporter. The P in capacity means program clarity and outcomes, right? Who do you serve? How do you serve them? How do you know that you're making a difference? The A in capacity, the second A means advancement and revenue, not just grants. It means individual donors, corporate partners, major donors, reoccurring giving, diversified revenue. All right. That's what advancement and revenue means. That means that you are able to advance, that you are able to expand, you're able to scale your revenue. All right. The second C equals communications, visibility. Can people clearly understand your mission? Can donors see your impact? How do they do that? How do they see that? Through communications, right? The I is your infrastructure, your operations. That's your policies, that's your procedures, that's your CRM, that's your staffing, that's your technology, that's your workflow, right? Your internal operations that pull all of these pieces together. The operations, the policies, the procedures, right? All of that works together. And then you have your team. That's your board. That's your leadership development. That's everyone understanding their role. That means everybody was working within a culture that understands where the organization is going and how to get there. And then the Y in capacity means year over year sustainability. How will this organization still be serving people 5 years from now? That's organizational capacity. All right. I want to give you a story. I'm going to give you a story. Um, Imagine someone says, I want to build a hospital. I want to build a hospital. And they buy 100 beds. They buy wheelchairs. They buy medical equipment. They buy supplies. And then they say, we don't have money for doctors. We don't have money for nurses. We don't have money for billing. We don't have money for scheduling. We don't have money for administration. Would that hospital help people? No, because the beds aren't the hospital. The organization is the hospital. Your program is like the hospital bed. The organization is everything that keeps that bed available for the next patient. And this is why funding doesn't solve the problem. Many of you think if we could just get funding, everything would be okay. Funding doesn't create leadership. It doesn't create governance. It doesn't create trust. It doesn't create systems. It doesn't create a culture. Funding doesn't create accountability. Funding accelerates whatever already exists. Did you hear what I said? Funding accelerates whatever already exists. If your organization has a strong system, then funding accelerates growth. If your organization has a weak system, funding accelerates chaos. Money's not going to fix your weak infrastructure. It just exposes it. That's why I often say funding isn't the first step. Capacity is. Knowledge is about what and how the organization operates in order to uphold, in order to continue, in order to sustain that program. Listen, people call me every day. I must get at least 10, 15 calls a day. People calling me every day. Jen, I want grants. I want grants, Jen. I need grants. Jen, I need grants. Jen, how can I get grants? Jen, I got everything. I got my paperwork and now I need a grant. Jen, I need a startup grant. Everybody calls me about a grant. 30 minutes later, we're talking about leadership, boards, fundraising infrastructure, operational systems, strategic planning, donor confidence. Why? Those are the things that are going to get you the grant. Those are the things that come into consideration by the grant funder. Funding isn't the diagnosis. Not having funding, that's the symptom. The symptom of not having leadership, not having a board, not having a fundraising infrastructure, not having those operational systems that bring in money, not having a plan or a strategy to raise the money, not knowing how to acquire, how to identify, how to secure donor confidence. Those are the things that get the money. Those are the things that ensure the money continues to consistently comes in. So saying, Jen, funding is our biggest challenge. That's a symptom. That's a symptom. No, Jen, we don't have a budget. No, Jen, we don't have a plan. No, Jen, we don't have a team. No, Jen, we don't have a structure of people who know how. No, Jen, I don't know how to get donors. No, Jen, I don't have a budget. No, Jen, we're not measuring our program impact. And as a result of your organization missing those things, now you got a funding problem. Funding is not the problem. Funding is the fruit. At the root of why we have the funding problem, Jen, I don't know how to raise money. Jen, I don't have a plan to raise money. Jen, I don't have any experience in putting together the organization. So the organizational operating systems are not there. No, Jen, I don't know what to say to the funder. I don't know. I don't know how to train my board. My board's not helping me. Jen, I don't know how to find board members. That's your organizational capacity. That's your organizational infrastructure. Mine is that. Of course, there's no money. Am I making sense? This is what I've learned. This is what I've learned. This is what I've learned. After 40 years in this business, this is what I've learned. I don't believe nonprofit leaders need more information. I don't. I don't. You all have access to so much information. You all have Google, you have chat, you have YouTube University, you have all them groups. You've got a lot of information. You've downloaded information, you've recorded information, you've highlighted information. You have been inundated with information. In fact, I really think that you're drowning in information. I think you're drowning in information. You know a little bit about grant writing, a little bit about fundraising, a little bit about board and board governance, a little bit about finance, a little bit about marketing, you know, a little bit about leadership, right? You've watched YouTubes, you've downloaded templates, you've bought courses, you've read articles, you've listened to podcasts. You got information. But what you haven't been shown is how do all of these disciplines, how do all of these disciplines work together to build one healthy organization? And that's the missing education. Listen, everything changes when you stop asking, how do I get funding? And begin asking, how do I build organizational capacity? Everything changes when you stop thinking, my program is my nonprofit, and begin understanding my organization sustains my program. Everything changes when you stop chasing money and start building donor confidence. Because confidence is what creates the trust. Trust is what attracts the investment. The investment, the donation, the contribution, fuels the impact. And it's the impact that changes the lives. I hope that today's conversation has been clear. And I hope that it's helped you realize that nobody ever taught you how to build the organization behind your mission. And I'd love to continue that journey with you. I've got two free ways to begin. Two free ways to begin, okay? The first one is to create or to complete my capacity organizational readiness assessment. It will help identify the strengths and the gaps in your organization's foundation. Your organization was built on a weak foundation. It was built on an idea, but nothing firm, nothing clear, nothing structured to hold up the mission or to hold up the program, right? So I've created this organizational readiness assessment to identify these are your strengths and these are the gaps in your organizational foundation. All right. So we're able to really target in on the areas that you want to focus on because a weak foundation can't hold up anything, right? You can't build anything on a weak foundation and expect for it to be able to carry or to hold or to be secure in what it is that you want to put on top of it. All right. Many of you don't have a money problem. You have a foundation problem. Foundationally, no, Jen, we didn't put together the budget. No, we didn't put together the financial management. No, we didn't put together the things that hold up and ensure and secure the program. All right. So I'm going to be able to really help you to identify these are the gaps. And until you fill those gaps, your foundation is going to stay weak. All right, that's free. I'm giving that to you free. The second is to join my Fundable nonprofit training series, where we go deeper into what it actually takes to build a nonprofit that is fundable. What does fundable mean, Jen? Fundable means that it's attractive to the donor, not just you need their money to do a program. No, what makes this attractive? What makes this appealing? What makes what you do trustworthy to them? Your donor, your funder, your supporter, your sponsor, that grant funder is not in that program. So you trying to talk to them, tell them, sell them your program is never going to work because they're not in that program. They don't need the program. But what is it that attracts them to our work? It's because our work not only is meaningful, but it's sustainable, right? So we want to make sure that you understand how to build a nonprofit that is fundable, that is sustainable, and that is positioned for long-term impact. It breaks my heart the number of you that say, Jen, I started my nonprofit, now I'm stuck. Jen, I started my nonprofit, I don't know what to do next. Jen, I started my nonprofit, and we had to stop. Why? Again, foundation. There was something missing. There are targeted, specific things that are missing in your organization right now that is preventing you from getting funding, that is preventing you from being sustainable, and that is preventing you from doing that program long term. It's not random, it's very specific, and I want to help you to get to that. All right. Both of those links, for those of you that are listening on my YouTube, for those of you that are on my podcast, both of those links are in the description below. All right. If you happen to run across this on my TikTok or on my Facebook, on my TikTok, the link is in my link tree. Okay. In closing, one thing I've realized recently, every specialist that I've connected with throughout my career has been teaching one important part of the nonprofit process, right? The grant strategist teaches grants. The controller teaches financial systems. The COO teaches operations. The governance expert teaches boards. The marketing expert teaches communications and visibility. They're all right. They are all right. But nonprofit leaders, you are struggling because any one of these, you aren't struggling. You aren't struggling because any one of these disciplines is wrong, right? You've taken the classes, you've listened to the podcast, you've watched the YouTubes, all of those cottage areas, all of those specialty areas, they're not wrong. And you knowing that information or getting that information or downloading that information, that's not wrong either. And that's not what's causing you to struggle, right? You're struggling because no one has shown you how all of those disciplines work together to build a sustainable organization. And that's why I created the capacity framework. I'm one of one. I'm one of one. I'm the only one that teaches the entirety of what it takes to have the capacity, to have the knowledge, to have the understanding and the steps to not just starting your program, but having the internal organizational foundation and structure to sustain the work long term. I'm the only one. I know that out here, if you listen to a grant funder, you'll think funding is the first step. Funding is the first step. Jen, I got my paperwork. I need a grant. Jen, I got my 501c3. I need a grant. Jen, how do I find donors? How do I find funders? How do I find supporters? Because you would think I got my program, I need funding for my program. So funding naturally would seem like the first step, but it's not. The organization is the first step. The organization's structure, the organization's plan, the knowledge, the clarity, the ability, the capacity to bring in the money consistently, to lead, to strategize, to structure that ongoing revenue streams. That's got to be first. And when you build the organization first, you're not chasing money. You're no longer chasing money. You're building an organization that funding is attracted to. Listen, I want to say thank you for spending your time with me. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you for those of you that follow me. Thank you for those of you that inbox me. Thank you for those of you that engage with the information that I provide. I know that my conversation about the nonprofit space is different than what you will get in most places, probably in any other place. I am one-on-one. If this message has encouraged you, if it has challenged your thinking, if it's helped you to see your organization differently, then please subscribe, follow, share with another leader, and leave a comment telling me of one insight that changed your perspective. That feedback is important to me. All right. Again, thank you for your time. Thank you for your listening. And I hope that something that I have shared with you resonates. And not only resonates, I hope that it gives you insight into how your problem can be fixed. How your problem can be fixed. And if I can be a part of how your foundation is built to last, how your foundation is built to not only hold up your program, but to be able to do that holding up for a long time. That's what your organization is intended for. That's what your program deserves. And that's what the people in your community are looking for when they are looking to see who they're going to invest their dollars in. They're investing in organizations that have the capacity, the structure, the ability to do the work long term. I am Jennifer, your nonprofit expert, and I'll see you next time.